We are the defenders of mankind against the horrors that dwell in the darkness. While we draw breath, we stand. While we stand, we fight. We are the angels of death. We are the blade drawn against the endless night. Nothing will survive our wrath.
Right, hello guys, welcome back for another unexpected 40k new game breakdown. Space Marine 2 and Tyranid Swarming. I don't really have a lot of background information with this, but as per the last time I did this kind of breakdown, we'll run through the whole thing slow so I got enough time to talk about it, and then we'll go into some little specific details. It would be fair to say that there is a significant amount we do not know about Space Marine 2 at this point in time. One of the things we do know though is obviously Captain Titus is one, no longer a captain, he's now a lieutenant, and secondly, he's also crossed the Primaris Rubicon. Now first of all, we see here one of my perhaps most favourite things in this trailer, coming in with the Thunderhammer. We'll come back to look at that again, but one thing you see straight away here, the immense, colourful visuals of the weaponry. Like, there is so much power in the weapons. We're obviously on a hive world that is being deluged by the Tyranid swarms, and I think it's fair to say I don't think this is a melter weapon. If we slow down later we can see that, but it is a melter weapon, and it's kind of having the same effect that we saw in the first Space Marine game. Here we can just see the hive world, bastions, tower defences, everything you would expect on an Imperial hive city. You can see the huge swarms of Tyranids coming in. Got some lovely Tyranids, warriors, gaunts. They're doing a mixed blend in this video of what is obviously gameplay and pre-rendered stuff. So this is obviously pre-rendered, this is the actual gameplay. It's got an interesting aesthetic with the amount of blood going on. They've kind of gone for this more stylized look. It doesn't look particularly realistic when the blood comes through. So they've gone for a slightly more colourful, I don't want to say arcadey, but it definitely has got vibrancy, I suppose. And then we come to something we knew had to be in this game, Jump Marines. Now, it has to be, and you see it again later. This was a really strong part of the original Space Marine game. There is a lot of devastation here going on, and again, this looks in-game. This doesn't look pre-rendered. So although the pre-rendered stuff is very, very glossy, a lot of this in-game footage, obviously without UI, but still you can tell it's the in-game engine. Some nice dodge jump back mechanics here, which again, part of the original Space Marine game and something which made the gameplay feel quite fluid. And then we come back to again the blood and the slashing. What's interesting is the kind of movements that Titus is doing. He's doing these long, look at this, sweeping with the sword and then bringing it round. A lot of these poses are really, really interesting, fluid, and doing the full swing around of the body. There's a huge amount of movement, and then coming in with the jump back again, that slam into the ground which we had with the Space Marine game, the first one. Again, one of the things which made that game so incredibly satisfying. Another part here though is this. Look at this environment. Look at the depth of this landscape. It really feels like this quagmire of war and devastation that's been just grinding, war of attrition if you will, fighting across these landscapes. You can just see the disgusting mire that they're having to fight through here. And then look at this again. Look at the power and the swing. Look at the head position there, swinging right around. Absolutely bloody love this, and it's really, really exciting to see. What a fantastic thing for them to drop at the end of this year. So then let's get into this with a little bit more detail. Let's have a look at some of these pieces which I thought were particularly noteworthy or interesting. So first of all, the opening shot. The reason I like this is it just gives a setting of the scale. So also we can get some detail in here. You can see up in the top left some Valkyries flying around there. Obviously a myriad of Tyranid forms. I get to list them all, but of course you've got gargoyles and stuff. Now look at this. I want to slow this down, that shot once more. Now I've cropped in a bit here as well. Look at this thunder hammer as it's coming down. The energy trail coming off it I love. And then as it connects, just this absolute unleashing of power. The amount of colour and energy that is just smashing off of this thing. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed with the first game, was just this presence, this feeling when you use the weaponry in that way. It was incredibly satisfying. Now I wanted to also just pause here, because I wanted to take a little look at just the environment, the scope and the scale of this background, because there is a lot of stuff going on here, and what this really evokes for me, and I'm sure many of you will feel this as well, is it really evokes for me that feeling you get from a lot of artwork which even came out from 2nd edition, where you would see these almost beyond belief scale scenes of planetary battle, where there is just too much going on to comprehend, and you're wondering how on earth can a battle like that ever actually exist. Well, it feels like they're trying to really illustrate that here, the scale of a planetary battle with all that is going on around, and that is pretty exciting. Now when we come to this section here, I've cropped in again, we can see what is certainly a melter weapon. But what's interesting is, obviously the Primaris usually have eradicators, but here Titus is not wearing the specific power pack and cabling required as are used by the Eradicator melt weapons. So it's curious to wonder exactly what kind of weaponry he has going on here. Obviously melter based, but specifically. Now again, decided to leave this in here because this slow motion pan across the city is just beautiful. This really just illustrates the scale that they are going for, and it is beautiful. But I do also want to show something that I dislike. Now I showed that at the full speed and we'll see it again just in a second. But what I'm looking at is this movement. It doesn't look like much when it happens quickly, but look at how he turns there. He goes from one position and then immediately kind of springs upright and twists into another, and it just kind of caught my eye and feels weird. However, one thing that doesn't feel weird is him slamming the foot into the ground and those Tyranids just going flying, and that is very on point. I also love those sparks and particles. I think they throw in this gigantic bell dropping, one because it's pretty epic, and two, I think they want to show that there can be a lot happening as we're moving through levels, not just moving through static environments. Okay, the epic jumpness. Look at this, flying straight up, and then it bang, pops into that shoulder, over the shoulder shot. That is very, very nice. Quite different than, again, what we had with the original Space Marine, and a lot better. If it can just ping and lock tight into those over the shoulder views. And then we're going into showing some melee action, I guess the variation that you can have in the game. Again, still no UI, but it's clearly in-game. How exactly this is going to work for us, not entirely sure, but you've got the dodging mechanics, perhaps some finishing moves that you can do. We saw, of course, in the original trailer where Titus just bisects one Tyranid and then tears another apart. And of course that was pre-rendered, but it feels like they're actually trying to have this stuff coming in the game. Now this scene with the power sword, it's epic as you see there for the drag, sweep and slash, the sheer energy unleashed again like the Thunderhammer, but for another reason. And that thing is this thing in the background here, because it appears to be a power source located within multiple gravitational fields. And that should be particularly interesting when we remember, of course, what was the main story really for the first game. In the story of the first Space Marine game, it was revealed that there was a power source produced by the Inquisitor there on Graia, which somehow produces or it channels warp energy. In fact, so much energy that ordinary humans, even other Space Marines, are kind of killed by it. So it was very unusual that Titus were able to hold that power source in his hand without any effect. It was also revealed in the first game that the Inquisitor Drogon had extracted that power source from inside the warp. But this of course was a twisted scheme by Chaos, a sorcerer lord. This power source was believed to be so dangerous that Titus had even said that he didn't believe anybody was capable of being trusted with it, not even the Inquisition. So his intention had been to bring it back to the Ultramarines chapter world of Macragge, and of course bring it to Marneus Calgar and Chief Librarian Tiguris, so that they could seal it away safely within the vaults of the Ultramarines chapter world. Now of course in the end Titus decides that he must destroy the power source and smashes it into pieces because it's too dangerous for anybody to have, but nonetheless is still detained by the Inquisition. And of course at the end of the last game there was a question mark that everyone was wondering is what is going to happen to Titus. Well, we can see that he clearly weathered the storm of the Inquisition in the end. No particular mention of what happened to his companions at that time, but I think that the contained energy we see here in this trailer could be a wink toward the continuation of that story. What happened to the power source? Was it truly destroyed? Perhaps Titus decides that this is his quest, that he must track down and prevent other instances of these power sources, because remember, he was one of the only people who could be unaffected by it. Perhaps now this is his champion cause, and maybe he has been led to this Imperial planet which is being besieged by the deluge of Tyranids, perhaps because Tyranids are often drawn to unusual power sources, particularly when they are of warp origin. So that would explain why the Tyranids are deluging their world. It would explain why Titus has had to arrive on the planet. So I'm very interested to see whether that's exactly what's going on here, and that's part of the story going forward. Hopefully we will find out very soon. So then back to the action, just some great battlefield smashing, slashing, hammering, jump packing in, real sense of what the previous game had to offer and why people enjoyed it so much, or at least why I enjoyed it so much. This lingering shot here of him just being prepared to face down the hordes of enemy, and then finally the last thing we wanted to look at again, you just look at the pose and the sweeping energy here. Just the wind up for unleashing the weapon all the way around, the whole body movement, the head even leaning into it. Really great animation, and amazing that they've gone to just that level of detail for the in-game character animations, and we could see that throughout here in terms of the movement. So there you go, Space Marine 2 managing to maintain its hype level, not necessarily a true gameplay showcase in the strongest sense, more just of a showcase of what the engine can do and perhaps the sort of things we can expect from the visuals of the game whilst playing it. Nonetheless, welcome it, lovely, great to see it, was very enjoyable. One other thing, hashtag, not an ad, but it would definitely be remiss of me if I didn't showcase this to you. This is the collector's edition that you can get if you are pre-ordering the game. You basically get this gigantic statue, which I'm not going to lie, as somebody that collects obviously the models and the books and a ton of other Warhammer stuff, I'm pretty into this. Lieutenant Titus hand-painted resin statue, pretty huge. Yes please. Normally when I do these things I leave you with the most recent trailer as the outro, but you know what, I decided today we're going to take a look at the original Space Marine 2 trailer because it's been quite a while and it is badass as hell seeing Titus drop in with the other Marines, kick the hell out of the Tyranids, and that face reveal. So here it is once again. I'll see you of course next time for some more Space Marine 2.
Company command! This is first platoon! We've lost the square! We can't hold it!